Okay, guys, you're welcome to another episode. Actually, the first episode of One on One with Amara. Now, today I have a very, I wouldn't say controversial, but I have a very intelligent guest today who will be sharing his insights on how to marry without spending money. You heard the topic right, how to marry without spending money. So, without wasting much time, let me introduce my guest to you, Mr. Promise Emmanuel, popularly known as Kogi Rebel. Over to you.
Getting married is not so difficult. It's not too expensive. It's because the gray areas have not really been clarified for a lot of people, and that is why they see getting married as more like a white elephant project for some people. And the reasons are enormous. I agree. Society has conditioned people to think in certain ways. So the line between reality, what ought to, what not ought to, has been blurred. So I think I want to share an insight to especially young people, because I'm seeing people of 35, 40s, they are no longer interested in marriage, not because they don't want to settle down. I look at the financial implication of settling down, and then these days too, a lot of very pretty women are blooming into their their withering age, and then there are no husbands anywhere. So you find plenty boyfriends everywhere, and then fewer husbands.
Okay, so before we go deep into the topic, would you say it's okay to marry someone because of their financial security instead of an emotional connection?
Interesting question. If a man is asking me this question,
do you think he's selfish?
I would answer differently. And if a woman is asking me this question, I'll answer differently, because what marriage is for a man is different from what marriage is for a woman. But to really try to balance the equation, I'm not much of a balancing person, because you said I'm controversial, right? I do not think I am controversial. Okay. I just think I do not like to rock the boat. A lot of people like to say things that are pleasing to the ears, but far detached from reality. I don't believe in that school of thought. I believe in getting reality that works. I'm not an idealist, I'm a realist. And then I like to prefer solutions to ongoing issues, not really by compounding them or debating them. I look at the threats and the opportunities, and I try to prefer solutions. Why do people make it seem like the world is not transactional? Where did you get that lie from? What is love, really? What do you think is love? The basis of love is even sitting on the ability for you to actually care for yourself first. If you're not able to care for yourself, which they call self-love, you cannot transfer the same love to somebody else. Yeah. So you need the world is not a flat ground where anybody can just take whatever they want. We have social systems in place. We have structure. We have government. That in some places they allocate what belongs to this person. In some places you have to work for what you think you deserve in this society. And that's the pillar that actually makes one person richer than the other, and then we have generational wealth. There are people who are born into old money. There are people who have to till the soil from the scratch and they make their own money. So whatever your financial standing is would to a large extent determine the stability of your marriage. I don't believe that people who are doing so badly financially should set themselves up in marriage before time. You don't have to be so wealthy. You don't even have to be wealthy to get married. You don't even have to be rich. But you need to have the basics. What are the basics? Food, clothing, and shelter. So if you don't have these things, figured out, especially in a society like ours that is patriarchal in nature. You know what patriarchy means? Men control, you understand, yes. The system. Men are the major providers, and then they marry as much women as they want. Because of the hypocrisy of religion now coming into the patriarchal society now, men now marry one wife, but they have several other women for the keep. So directly or indirectly, it's still the same thing, the patriarchal system. So indirectly, they may be married to different women. So, but they need money to run that venture, because marriage is also a venture. It's like a business. You either thrive at it or you fail at it.
How do we get married without spending money?
People plan weddings, they don't plan marriages. Wedding is expensive, marriage is not. Yes.
Does it mean that we still not spend money?
You cannot get married without spending money.
Okay, so.
But spending money means what? Capital intensive nature of the project. Wedding is an ongoing project that never ends. A lot of people think it's just the day. You do your trad, you do your court, you do your a church wedding, then you do the reception. That's like four activities in one, and then they get to allocate funds for all of them. To them, that's what they need to plan for, and then the polling funds, plenty of it. Some people sell their cars even to get married. Some sell land, some sell houses, some liquidate just something very big. Some people must have saved money for like 10 years.
Only to spend it on a wedding?
Yes, only to spend it on a wedding. And then that's the foolishness now the world is going into. Because the economy has been contrasting over time, we have fewer people with sustainable income. So even if their desires have remained the same, they want a big wedding, a big day, they cannot realistically afford it. And then that is why also many are no longer getting married. Then what used to be the social structure that held our society together before, in those days our parents talk about values, they talk about norms, they talk about ethics and all. We are now seeing that there is a revolution going on now. There's a clash between the opinion of what happened 20 years ago, what happened 10 years ago, and what is happening right now. So, and then there is also what we call cultural diffusion because of the prevalence of internet and television teaching. So what is happening in China now, a lot of people are seeing it in Lagos, and then they can learn from it. Yeah. What's happening in India, you understand? The kind of marriage they do in America, kind of marriage they do in UK and all. And the model nation for Nigeria, let me just localize it to Nigeria, is United States and UK. United Kingdom was the country that colonized Nigeria, and then of course United Kingdom also colonized America. They are two similar people just drawn apart. There was a time there was great depression in Europe, and then some people went on a journey, and then they wanted to discover the new world, and then Christopher Columbus would eventually land in a very vast land, and then that's how America started. And then they were subject to the king and queen of England for a very long period of time before they gained their own independence in 1777. So if you look at it very well, those countries are both intertwined. They have similar way of life, they have similar beliefs, and just a bit of dichotomy. Now, narrowing down to Nigeria, to the colonized Nigeria, most of the cultural transfers we're seeing today came from them. Tradition, education, commerce, you understand, even our legal system. If you check, most of the things we have in our Nigerian legal system are actually borrowed from Britain. So it also reflects the culture and the way of life of people. So now we are fighting it. There's a bit of the Africanism, and there's what we call the Afrocentrism, and then there's a bit of Eurocentrism. You understand? It's a continuous battle. What I want. And so there is this psychological belief that is Sena Klein. And then in Nigeria, it's not Sena Klein. Do you understand? But it's not true. We're just seeing that there's a culture that is different, that is sitting on a working system. And then we have a culture that is different here, that is sitting on a developing system. So in itself, there's nothing bad with us. It's just that we haven't reached the level of their own growth and advancement. They are older than us when you look at it critically. So when people who now live in Nigeria try to model their lives after those who are not in Nigeria because of cultural learning via television, you understand, many problems will now happen. After a while, the reality of being in Nigeria and living in the structure of Nigeria now begins to actually fall into it. Let me give you a sharp example. 80% of the reason why a lot of people divorce in America is infidelity.
Okay.
80%. Go and find out.
Okay.
You'll hear irreconcilable differences. We cannot work together anymore. He cheated. That's why you see, if somebody can be married for 1 week and then he's out of the marriage next week, he caught his husband cheating or he caught his wife cheating. But they are the promoters of monogamy, which is one man, one wife. But the reason why they are not together is because they cannot stay faithful to themselves, which is very ironical. Do you understand? You are selling to the world that one man, one woman, but you cannot hold yourself from to be with one man, one woman. Then conversely, in Africa, which has always been the norm, your great grandfather, I'm sure, has like 3 wives or 2. As the case may be, it depends on how rich he was then, to carry the band of family he was going to raise. So now we have many men here, one man, plenty women. But after religious belief began mixing with our own African traditional belief, right?
So
we now start having,
So a polygamist.
You're asking me. I'm not really sitting for your interrogation on that same. I'm not going to answer that now. Maybe we'll treat that another day. But then I'm saying now Africa is polygamy in nature. Africa is polygamy. Let nobody lie to you about it. I am a man. Even if I don't do it, I see people who do it every day. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You said earlier that it's choice, right? Now, I was just trying to infer between both countries and the hypocrisy that exists in it. So in Africa here, we have one distant man and then several wives. And then cultural distortion now came. And then they started saying that, you should marry one wife. So you have peace in your marriage, you don't have a problem, you don't do this. So those are preachings, right? And then because of belonging to the tenet of religion that preaches that, a lot of people now started also practicing what I call pseudo monogamy, right? Where they would be married to one wife, but they have maybe a side chick or 2 or several other women on the outside. So, and then it is rampant. It's like everywhere. So that is to say, it is an imposed culture that doesn't work with the culture of this environment. But like you said, sins of faith, belief, they are subjective in nature. It happens in the head. So it's an ongoing fight and quarrel. Now, in contrast to why people divorce there and here, you will see that a lot of African women don't leave their marriages because their husbands have side chicks or they have more women, but they fight it. They fight it because of the belief of that is what it ought to be. It's just supposed to be one man, one wife. But in the real sense of it, nobody leaves their marriages anymore because of that. So why am I saying it? Why am I saying this? What I'm saying this is, every society have a distinct feature of what they want and who they are as a people. So without cultural diffusion coming into the mix, I do not really think that in Africa here, even your father shouldn't have one wife now, because he will see it as not being man enough. Would have acquired more, which should reflect his status in the society. That's the African man's culture. But in that other society now, right? Marriage is a big deal for them, and then they think that until they are married to one wife, and then that is when the marriage happens. Right? But then you look at how they are divorcing with their so-called belief. That's to say, even them, what they are saying it is correct, they are not practicing it. Okay, so let us move from there so that you won't justify your question of me being a polygamist or not.
All right, so we're still talking on how to get married without spending. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in that part.
Yes. Okay, without spending money.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to treat 3 major aspects of this theme. One is you and your spouse to be.
Okay.
2 is your family and the family of your spouse. And then 3 is the budgets, of the marriage proper. Until two people agree, they cannot go together. One huge secret a lot of young people are missing these days is that it is generally agreed that in Africa, families marry themselves. It's not just the two individuals. Yes, but the two intending couple represent both families, and often than not, it's what they want that will happen. But because of interference from both families, telling the son this is what you ought to do, telling the daughter this is what you ought to do, that is where the battle of wits in negotiation comes to play. But if the intending couple can segregate themselves from the external opinions of their parents, of course, because what your parents should naturally want for you is that you should have a peaceful marriage that prospers. How you should marry, how much you should spend on the marriage, the kind of people you should invite and all, I think it's your personal business.
Yes.
When you now begin to factor into consideration your mother and her meeting people and how your husband needs to actually make provision for it, or you, the son that is getting married, your mother and her meeting people, how they are going to travel from one place to the other, or your cost, that is what begins to actually magnify what you intend to do. So I'm supposed to talk about that in the main budget, but then I just give a highlight to buttress the point that it is what those two intending couples want that will marry. Because both families will not stop the marriage from happening because you've decided not to spend so much on the marriage. If ideally they want their son or daughter to be married. So if both of you agree and then you say, Papa, Mama, this is what we intend to do and this is how you want it, what you are going to do is to seek their blessings. So both of you should go to your parents and talk to your parents. Me and my husband or me and my wife do not have so much budget for this. We have decided on how much we are going to spend and then we are going to stick to it. And then this is what we intend to do. So if they have counsel for you, which is very good, they should work with your own budget.
So what if they don't share in that same opinion that both of you, or that conclusion that both of you have come to reach? Let's take, for example, the lady's family now. What's your advice? What would you like to throw in there? If her family doesn't agree with that conclusion that both of you have reached and they've withdrawn their engagements in that wedding or marriage.
Okay, here is the thing, right?
And the lady still agrees with you.
Is it really about the family of the lady, really? Be what the lady wants and what the lady's mother wants? I'll tell you for free. Men don't like spending money on marriage. Everywhere. No matter how rich they are. Even as wealthy as Dangote would be, if he intends to get married, he'll spend money according to the bigness of his wealth. But he wouldn't overspend. It is the women usually who are the culprits, and then they decide to talk about the bogusness of how the day should be, how it should be elaborate, how this must happen, how you must invite this person, how the girls have to sleep in so places and all. Because they are trying to impress their friends, they try to impress their own parents, and then they try to impress themselves. A man whom is the one that is providing like 90% of the budget or 80% most of the time is looking at how he's going to save cost, if what he has would even be enough. So most often than not, he doesn't have anybody to impress. If I give you my perfume now to spray, it's my perfume, so you would like to actually wet yourself more for it to link. But how would you spray your own perfume?
Minimize. I would like to minimize.
Why would you want to minimize?
Because it's mine. I'm the one bringing the money.
Exactly. It's also with financial application during marriage. If you are the man and you are the one providing most part of the money, you should dictate the budget and sit your wife down and get her to agree. If she doesn't agree, tell her to fund the remaining aspect of it.
No, but now she agrees. My question is, she agrees. She's
Yes.
in oneness with you.
Yes.
But her family happens to be the problem.
There is no problem if the family doesn't want her to get married.
So if they're not in support, you would.
You would tell them to provide the other portion of the budget.
Would
if
you
it's
still go ahead
so important
Would
to
you
them.
still go ahead getting married to her?
If they agree, of course. If they agree, you would get married to them. Now, let's not model this whole thing together.
Yeah.
Let's do it sequentially so that the points will be very clear. You and your wife need to agree first. And what are the points of agreeing? I am not a politically correct person. I'm not a socially correct person. Marriage is power play between the man and the woman. You first need to agree on who is going to be the head of the family. In those days, we don't necessarily have to have this kind of conversations. But now, we have to now. Because the quest for power, control, and then domination, you understand, has really become a front burner in modern marriages. Women too want to lead. Men too want to lead. So you need to discuss who is going to be in charge. Is your wife going to be in charge in the marriage? Or you are comfortable with your wife being in charge, or you want to be in charge? You must agree. Don't leave it flat. You must discuss it. I am a premium man, alpha of my kind. I am the head of my own house. I am the one who married my wife. I would like to be the head of my house. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. There are women who are looking for men who are going to take charge. They want really domineering men that they can submit to. And then there are men who are looking for men who are pliable that can submit to them. So you must have that conversation. So it doesn't become a conversation you'll be having in marriage. That's one. Okay. Two, the issue of love. You know, a lot of people joke a lot. When you are young, when you are in your early 20s, as a man, please womanize. Womanize as much as you can, responsibly. Don't get anybody pregnant. Don't have indiscriminate sex without protecting yourself. But if you're in your crave for different women, fat, short, plump, big, small, whatever it is in your head, womanize. So you don't get to now start experimenting it in your marriage, because it becomes a distraction at that point in time. Why am I saying womanize? You need to actually learn how to handle different kinds of women and actually learn attraction. People are never going to stop getting attracted to who you are, even if you're married. If you're a powerful man, women are going to seek you. No woman cares if you're married or not, except you're not a powerful man. And then it depends on the price that you're willing to pay, to a reasonable extent. I'm not saying there are no exceptions, but I'm just saying, when women look at men, they look at their potentials, they look at the provider figure in them, they look at how he's a staggering figure in society, they look at his money as well. Very important, they look at it. What about a woman? A man sees a woman and then he thinks about how pretty she is, the kind of children that is going to come out of her, if she's going to be presentable to his friends, right? And then some look at how productive she is, how she's going to complement his life. You need to actually settle all those questions. And settling those questions doesn't come with the feeling of, oh, Kai, I miss you. Oh, I've not seen you today. No. That's a distraction. You don't use love to determine who you are going to get married to.
You shouldn't.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Love is a feeling that is never fixed. You are a young woman, but I'm very, very sure, maybe this is a pretty personal, but I'm very sure that it's not just one person you've loved in your life. Is it?
Don't you think?
No. I want you to answer. Is it one person you've ever had some kind of feelings for or something?
No.
So it means that for you to be able to have feelings or desire one person and at different points desire another person, it means that love is not something that is static. It is fluid.
But then I think people mistake desire with love, lust, love. I don't think you say you love a person and not want to commit to a person. I don't know, but I feel like people misplace that's desire. Love.
Yes, it is
when
possible.
most people feel lost, they call it love.
Yes, it is possible. But now in the context of marriage, they are all things you should consider. There's nothing wrong with lust. What is lust? Desire for what? The body. You see, and then that is why I talked about...
Can that be love?
That's why I talked about humanizing. Do you know a lot of people just want to sleep with a particular woman that is not within their reach? And because she's not within their reach, they grow fondness for her. And they pursue her with everything they want. Everything they have. Money, they try to impress her and all. And then women think that a man who is consistent in the chase actually cares about her. Do you understand? Okay. But that might not be the case many times. It might be lost. The guy is lusting after you. It's like a fire ignited in him. He desires to quench it. So he can do everything he can do actually to get to the end of that particular stuff. But somebody who has womanized before critically has dealt with the issue of lust. Do you know why? There is nothing that is really imaginative for him anymore. He might have experienced a bit of it, pocket of it, right? Pocket of it, just a bit of experience of it. But then the reason why a man can womanize and eventually get stable is the fact that men don't possess. Men try to dominate. Men try to conquer. And when you conquer, you can leave and go elsewhere. But women possess. Women own. Women nurture. Do you understand now? So a woman cannot be everywhere by her nature. She wants to own, she wants to nurture, she wants to cherish, she wants to love. But a man wants to conquer. So a man sees a woman and then he feels, oh, she's so sweet, she's so beautiful. I must get this girl. Right? And then he walks towards getting her. And a woman sees a man, oh, he has potentials. He'll be a rich man. I like this guy, I like his stature, I like his height and everything. He should be mine. And then she positions herself for him to see her. Or reverse is the case, whatever it is that works. So in the intricate nature of our core being, men are people who conquer. And that is why they have the instinct of what? Fighting, protecting and all. But what about women? They possess what already has been conquered. I mean, they nurture it, they keep it for themselves.
Yeah, okay.
So you do not lose sight of that. You must ask those questions. Then again, you need to investigate our past. People who wake up and talk about, I don't care what she has done before, all her life is a new slate, is that, they are actually very ignorant people. Likewise, the woman needs to investigate the past of the man for her to know if she is okay with dealing with his past, and then for him too to know if he's okay with dealing with her past. You know why? Your past is the history of your collective attitude that has become a character. Because somebody sees you today in another form doesn't mean everything that you've done. There is a fragment of it still left in your life. Are you ready to deal with it? That's the question. If it happens again in the future, would you deal with it? If you want to marry from the streets, there is nothing absolutely wrong with marrying from the streets. Some men desire that. But in the future, when you have challenges and she goes back to the streets, can you deal with that? Those are questions you need to ask. So, my dear brothers and sisters, interrogate the past. Question the past. Turn it upside down. If you know there is anything that is going to make you feel insecure your entire life, do not do it. I can be with a woman my friend has once dated. I do not have a problem with that. Why do I think so? Because I think that I have also been with women that other people or other people might eventually settle with, and they know me. But there are some men that is a deal breaker for the fact that they know this particular individual. You know, if whoever they are going to get married to has seen their nakedness before, it is not something they are willing to deal with their entire lives. So you should actually make up your mind. So in the marriage, you don't start reminding her that she was a cheap slut somewhere, and then in your own case too, he has slept with all my friends. It doesn't become a currency. Please interrogate her past. Then again, I want to say this one very, very importantly. I'm really passionate about these things. Women who have done drugs in the past.
Women who have dated Yahoo boys.
Women who have dated Yahoo boys, right? And then men that have dated girls from the streets who do drugs as well. It's a double-edged sword, in the sense that if you are being with somebody whom is used to a particular cruise of life, and then they call it fun, when they are tired and they want to transition into marriage, they don't turn born again overnight. If they get married now, they are going to want that particular cruise in the marriage, because that's what they are used to as having fun or having life. Somebody who takes tramadol before having sex cannot begin to enjoy sex without tramadol inside marriage. Somebody who is used to dildos as a way of getting sexual satisfaction cannot begin to now enjoy your own penile, whatever it is in the marriage. You are not a magician. You are not Jesus and Savior. But the question is this: are you ready to compromise? Is that what you really want to do? Don't let love, in quotes, or lust to blind your eyes from asking those many questions. And that's why a lot of people now are jumping into marriages, and then after 3 months, 6 months, they are tired. 1 year, they are out of it.
Things they can't cope
yes, they will now begin to talk about how the man was this, the man was that. No, from the beginning, the flags were there. A lot of people just ignored it. So now, as I am now, I am married. I know the wife I married. I know the extent of her character. I know the limit. I know she knows mine too. And then I made sure that there were things I could actually, even when it gets terribly worse, I made sure there were things that within my own sphere of strength, mental strength, physical strength, there were things I could actually curtail or contain before I made that decision. So please, don't joke with it. That's the first part of agreeing between yourself and herself. Then sexual compatibility too, very important. There are people who like to be having sex for like 3 hours,
and then you get married and you can't cope.
And then they tell you no, they will cope, they will adjust, they would no. The only changes that happen with sexual stamina and all of that is age. When you begin to age, your desires begin to decline. What you want begin to come down. But you might still be having the same sexual enjoyment and satisfaction. The difference is just that experience will come into it now. What you need to do for 1 hour to climax, you can do it in 10 minutes now to climax, because both of you are now used to yourselves. You also do not have that time because of family, the energy and all of it. But then from the inception, the first 5 years of every marriage is honeymoon. And then in the honeymoon, there are going to be a lot of clashes, disagreements. There are going to be loads of problems, because even settling into the marriage is another journey for you. Do you know how difficult it is to live with a roommate, somebody you are schooling with, the same room? So imagine living with husband and wife. I used to be very jealous with my space. I cannot sleep on the same bed with somebody else. I want it all to myself. I need to turn. I don't like waking up in the night and then I'm meeting somebody, next to me. But when I was getting married, I had to get used to it. But let me not lie to you. I got used to it by practicing it before marriage, not inside marriage.
Okay.
So you need to do it. You need to also be intimate. Don't leave it to chances and preachings. There are many things that could have been avoided. You do not like the size of this. You are not comfortable with how this person is. You are not. But you are leaving everything to go and experience it inside the marriage. Then you now become a prayer point in church. You are the one that is always reporting to your pastor. You are the one that always takes marital counsel every Sunday. You are the one that is always going to see therapists every now and then from one decision that you should have, avoided.
Okay, so let's speed things up to the borrow, you sell, you do this to achieve that, and then after the wedding, you start having problems when you're married. I think that's where I go against it.
Okay. That's one Gen Z that is thinking this way. But you see, even for the best of us, there are a lot of people who are not seeing it from that dimension. Now, let me state a fact now. Do you know the person, is there a Guinness Book of Record for the best wedding in the world?
No.
Have you ever heard?
No.
What about best wedding in Nigeria?
Well, I think society has brought that. People are now seeing.
But is there a best
wedding? There shouldn't be. There isn't.
There's no best wedding.
No.
What about in Lokoja? Is there a best wedding? Can you remember maybe 2 or 3 weddings you've attended?
I didn't really tag them as best. That's what they want.
Oh, really?
But then
so you just saw different things when you went to the weddings, right?
I did not put them on that list. Oh, this one is better than this one. This one is better than this one. They did what was comfortable for them.
Okay, good. That's to say that there is no best wedding and there is no bad wedding. They are just people who got married. But the mindset of people who are planning weddings these days is they want to have a very good wedding. Let it be the talk of the town. Verily I say unto you, your wedding might be the talk of the town next week Saturday, and then the next week Saturday that will happen, there's another one that will be the talk of the town that is more than the one you've done. And then another week there's another one that will be the talk of the town than what you have done. And then another week there will be another wedding that nobody even talks about. That is to say, there is no best wedding, there is no worst wedding. And when you after the pandemonium and all the madness, you fade to the what? Bleakness. You get married, people gather, they celebrate you, everybody heals, they felicitate and all. And then after you're married, it now becomes just you
and who you got married
and your wife. So that is to say, a wedding is just a part of your life. It's not the whole sum of your life. Marriage is a whole sum of your life, not wedding. So why are so many people planning weddings instead of marriages? What is a wedding, Basi? For many religious books, there are certain requirements to be fulfilled for what? Marriage to even take place, which all religions have agreed that you seek the consent of the parents of the spouse to be. The man will go and seek consent. Most religions have agreed. Most cultures have agreed. And then that entails what? Going with ornaments of respect. Kola nut. Kola nut, in African setting is what? Kola nut is the language of communication when people sit together. They enjoy it, right? It's a fruit.
You're welcome.
And then there is wine. Wine is for what? Merriment. And then they do symbolic things like you bring the yam, you bring palm oil and all. It's just communicating that in this marriage, whatever is going to happen, the woman should be properly taken care of, which means what? Provision of food, clothing. And for you to show that you can do that, you need to demonstrate it before the parents. That's what you do all those things for. Then, if you trace it back, for those who are Christians, when you begin to now pay what we call the dowry or bride price in English term, dowry is only paid for a woman who is a virgin. Yes. The Jewish tradition says it. It's in the Bible. And why do you pay that? You pay it to the father for not defiling her own daughter. Because in those days, incest was actually on, brothers marrying sisters and all. And then as society grew, parents now started keeping, or fathers started keeping their daughters for intermarriages, right? To get married to outside. But there are still cultures that practice incest or extended incest. You know, there's what we call endogamy. Endogamy is marriage within a particular racial group. Exogamy is marriage between different racial groups. You know, I think the Fulanis of Nigeria still practice endogamy. Relatively, they don't go out of their racial group to get married. But then we have Igbos marrying Yorubas, Hausas, and all. That's exogamy. So bringing it home now, if you consider all these activities, as I will call it, if you want to marry without spending money, you need to prioritize. You choose. What is the major one that makes you a married person? The other ones are inventions. They are the creative inventions of other people who wanted to do their things in a different way. Choice. These days now, people will do traditional marriage, which is actually the only marriage that should be in existence anyway. Then from there, everybody will leave the venue, or they'll have it on Friday. Then everybody will travel from one location, or
an engagement party even.
Yes, they'll have an engagement party. That is another money, right? Yeah. Then they'll travel to another distant location, or maybe within the same location for church wedding. Spend some hours, fuel vehicles, be in cars, buy suits, buy wedding gown. Ashwebi girls will wear their own, men in suits wear theirs, then family will wear their own regalia, family of mother, family of father, family of spouse, what's it called self? The paternal family, maternal family, friends of the couple, friends of these, colleagues, all those things. Those are expenses, right? And then they'll do church. Then when they are done with church, they'll now go to reception, right? Because there are categories of people who won't come for the traditional rites. There are those who won't come for the wedding, they'll come for the reception. Then that's where you now gather people again. You rent a hall, you know, you see, yes, you feel it. Then you now begin to think about the drinks people are going to have, the rice you cook, the cow you are going to slaughter for that day. And then when you now agglutinate all these expenses together, it's staggeringly crazy. But then what do you need it for when you can get married without all these things? And then I think the first, what they do now is after trad now, people go to court. Yeah. They'll travel to Abuja or go to Lagos. You know, they like using the popular registries where they can snap pictures. Yeah. Yes, Ikoyi registry or FCT this thing, registry. Then they'll snap. Now, it is ignorance walking on wheels. Ignorance walking on wheels. The Nigerian Constitution recognizes that when a man goes to see what the parents of his wife to be and pays the necessary rights demanded by them, he is legally married. Mm-hmm. It is part of our customary law. It is just that it is a duty of the local government where the marriage took place to register that marriage has taken place. Just like when somebody dies too, they should register. It's not even supposed to cost money. But today now it has become an activity that costs a lot of money. You see that the suit they wear or the gown she wears for that court is also a different expenses entirely. Then we are not looking at pre-wedding shoots. Pre-wedding, then wedding shoot, and then post-wedding. The post-wedding is the one you say thank you. The pre-wedding is to announce that you are going to marry. Then you go and buy another expensive clothing. Then some people even hire vehicles that they cannot afford that isn't theirs. They charter. You understand? They get these vehicles and then so that they can snap inside. Then the clothing they will use for the pre-wedding shoots is separate from even the traditional rites that they will use, and then the ones they will use in church, and then the ones they will use at the reception is totally different. When you gather all these things together, it gives you an idea why a lot of people think that they need to be ready for marriage. What readies you for marriage is for you to say, this is time I want to actually sit somewhere and then start planning a family. It's not so much money that you have in the bank account. It's not. Why do I need a white wedding when I've done a traditional rite, as I'm not in UK or America? White wedding is a concept imported from UK or America. That is their own form of traditional marriage that you do here. They gather people to witness their union. It is even decision between just them. Most of them don't even involve their parents. That's their own culture.
You don't even see them couple style.
I mean, you have your child and then you could be in this city and then you hear by rumor that your child has gotten married, that your child got married 2 weeks ago to somebody. It goes for them. In Africa here, it doesn't. We go and see parents, seek parental guidance, because parents also guide to the success of the marriage. So we involve them. So you've done your traditional rites, which makes you legally married. So why do you have to do white wedding? I mean, what is even the concept of white wedding? And then what is reception, for God's sake? Reception. For you put up people to announce your credentials or how much money you can spend. You bring people together to eat. Plenty money you do not have. And then some people confuse the idea that it's just once in a lifetime. It's not any once in a lifetime. It's not once in a lifetime. That once in a lifetime saving can actually impact on your financial status for the rest of your life. You don't break the bank to do an event that goes away in a day. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is this. I have highlighted factors that accumulate to the wastages that makes marriage look expensive. It is a recommendation. I really don't say you should follow it. You can even decide to be creative with your own. You can go and get married on the moon. People are doing it now. People are getting married in Dubai. So, I didn't do a pre-wedding shoot when I got married. I posted a regular picture of me and my wife. And I announced that on Saturday I was going to be, getting married. And then the regular picture I posted informed everybody, my friends as well, that I was getting married. I didn't need to snap in a hotel somewhere. I didn't need to rent a place. I didn't need to pay 200,000 or 100,000 to a cameraman somewhere to come and take me those shots. There were shots from my mobile phone camera, phone that was very expensive, and then we buy phones because of camera quality and all. So why not utilize it? Then the traditional rites, in fact, it's not cheap. It's still expensive. Before you travel and go and see the parents first time, you go with your own, because you and your wife needs to introduce you to her parents first. Then you familiarize yourself with your family. Those are expenses, right? Then you take your own parents to go and see them. And then you now bring cola, you bring all those things for them to come and collect a date that you'll be coming to take your wife hands in marriage. So, and then you go there, you have the traditional rites. You pay the necessary things that you pay, and everybody is happy. And then, of course, if you still want to go ahead and do reception, you have the money, you do. You can have your traditional rites and the reception for it. And everybody is happy. Court, white, this and that. Those are the reasons why so many people are scared. And for the purpose of traveling, people say they don't want to, in case they need to travel, they need to do this and that. I'm telling you for a fact, it is not everybody that is going to travel. It is not everybody that is going to ever travel. And then, of course, traveling, you can actually be the sponsor, and then your wife becomes the dependent when you are traveling. And when they ask for your marital status, then you put it married. You don't actually need to provide a document to show that you are married before your visa is approved. Because the major thing they try to say is if you have the financial capacity to take care of you and the person you are traveling with. So Nigerians need to actually clarify this and say, stop lying to people. You don't need white wedding, you don't need reception. Because when you have your child, even when you have your child, people still gather people. Come and eat rice, come and do this, come and do that. Your family members are the ones who are supposed to name your child. You don't even need the pastor to do that for you. After you do that, you now think about going for dedication and all those other things that comes along. And then it's another money. So instead of bringing pastor to do all of those things, why not do something within your family and then you go and do your dedication?
Okay, well, thank you very much. That is a very, 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 very explanatory insight. So, you guys have heard it all, and thank you for staying with us to the very end of this episode. You've heard how Mr. Promise has analyzed getting married within your reach, within your budget. The wedding is not really the marriage. You should focus more on the marriage rather than the wedding. Thank you very much for joining us on One with
Can I
Amara.
close?